Live. Let's give it a new name. $1K live stream. Now I just confirm that everything's really fucking slow, so I've got to sort this all out. You know, I should probably get like some thing going in the background. I don't know, need like a scheme. You know, I should probably get like some thing going in the background. I don't know, need like a scheme. You know, I should probably get like some thing going in the background. I don't know, need like a scheme. You know, I should probably get like some thing going in the background. I don't know, need like a scheme. You know, I should probably get like some thing going in the background. I don't know, need like a scheme. You know, I should probably get like some thing going in the background. I need like a scheme. A cool little you know, I should probably get like some thing going in the background. Scene. I need like a scheme. A cool little you know, I should probably get like some thing going in the background. Scene. I need like a scheme. A cool little I should probably get like some thing in the background. Scene. I need like a scheme. A cool little Okay, I'm just like. I should probably get like some thing in the background. Scene. I need like a scheme. A cool little Okay, I'm just like. I need to actually change the name. I'm gonna try. Probably should have given out the old capital there. 4 people watching. Extensions. Turn it off, turn it off. And good. And I suppose I'll just bloody shut these down too. Okay. Told me he was a big fan, but the first thing he said when I saw you is, "Can you get a pic for the gram?" I was like, "Nah, sorry man, I only socialise with the crew and the gang." Come on. You know, honestly, I might as well just restart this. No, I don't know. I really should have like had a little I only socialise with the crew and the gang thing on. You know, honestly, this is my favourite Sudoku channel. Who said? I really should have like had a little Who said this? Only socialise with the crew and the gang. Pingu thing on. Okay, I'm not. You know,
Wait,
honestly,
this
I'm
is
my
my
favorite
favorite
songs.
Goku channel.
I'm just trying to shut everything down. Okay.
Who said
I really
that?
should have like had a little.
Who said this?
Also,
Yeah,
hold on.
uh,
Can I hear myself?
Pingu
Thing on.
Makarova.
Okay, I'm not. You know,
Wait,
honestly,
this
I'm
is
my
my
favorite. That's so funny. I didn't realize I could hear myself. Probably need to deal with that. Oh, I thought I just broke everything. That would have been a disaster. Okay. So, I can hear an echo. Yes, you can. I think I've dealt with it now. Of course, I can't check. Okay, good. So, this is going to be a slightly different live stream in that I have a very specific series of things I wanted to get to. Mostly because I started recording this as an actual video, and then I was like, you know what, this is getting so conversational that I might as well turn it into a live stream. However, obviously this way, if you say some comments, then I can go, oh, nice comment, bro, and I can read it. So, first things first, of course, I don't know, the fact that I'm not scripting it anymore makes some of this feel far more inauthentic, but I'm gonna just power through it anyway. So, basically, the first thing I wanted to say is that this all began. What about getting drunk? That is a you can get drunk. You can have a drinking game. I actually don't drink, and I'm not a dick about it. It's just I used to drink a lot, and then I don't like it. In fact, you know what? Actually, see what I wanted to say, and I can do this now. What I wanted to say in the scripted video is that I have this anxiety thing, which is why I don't get drunk. But the other thing is that what it does, okay, is whenever things are going well, there's this just intrusive thought that enters my head. I'm going to turn the brightness way down so I don't get any glare. There's this intrusive thought that enters my head, which is like, what if you died right now? And I wanted to say that now because now that I've said that, people can be like, oh wow, like if I do die, people are like, oh wow, he really fucking cooled it, which would be great. Because like, I don't know, it's like this thought I always have, whereas I think it all started when I was thinking about horror films, and how in horror films a lot of the time the people who die are young adults, and I thought like, yeah, but dying as a young adult is like the worst time to die, because when you think about it, it's when you've gone through like some of the biggest nonsense, like you've gone through university, you've like basically spent your entire time in school, in education, learning, like building up all these dreams about what you want to do in your life, but you're at a point where you don't have a family, you haven't really made a significant impact on the world, and you haven't really fulfilled any of your dreams, and then you get killed by some kind of axe murderer or something. And I always used to think like that's the saddest thing. Like it's very weird to me that in horror films it's like, oh yeah, it's perfectly acceptable. Like, you know, it's kind of as if films act as if the least sad people to die are young adults. And I'm like, well, it's kind of the opposite, because it's like young adults are the people who have spent the most time like building themselves up to live in the world, and, you know, like I say, get married, have kids, whatever, get a job, do all of their things they want to do. But then they die, and it's like, well, all of that was for nothing. So that's why in my head, when everything's going well, there's a part of me that's like, yeah, but what if you die right now? And I'm like, oh yeah, man, that would suck. I mean, I know, hot take, it would suck to die, but yeah. So basically, I hope that by saying this, you can be like, oh yeah, he's right. It would suck if he died, and that way, if I do die, you will know how to feel. You'll be like, oh man, that sucks. So that's that. Point number 2. Yeah, I guess this is the thing which makes the least sense for me to bring up in the context of a live stream, because originally I scripted this, and this would be like such a logical thing to bring up scripting, which is like, I was going to start this whole spiel about like how my channel began. It was not like a whole spiel, it was just like, oh yeah, one time I saw this Stefan Molyneux video, and I was like, oh man, Stefan Molyneux's a fucking idiot. So I made a video responding to him, and then just snowballed from there. That was basically going to be the thing, and it was going to be really dramatic, and you'll go, yeah, I remember that video, even though, you know, you probably don't, because it was ages ago, and you probably have subscribed since then, because based on the fact that I have 1,000 subscribers now, and I didn't start off with 1,000 subscribers. I'm imagining most of my subscribers probably subscribed after my first video. That is my spicy take. I keep saying like hot take. I've said it twice now. I said it about the whole people dying being bad, and also about people who have subscribed since I started my channel, probably maybe not remembering the first video I uploaded. Anyway, so that's that. Now I want to talk, okay, about Patreon. You don't have to not comment, by the way. If you do comment, I will read and I will respond. I just, you know, I feel like because I said, oh yeah, I've got like some things I want to get through, everyone was being a bit, maybe everyone's being a bit quiet now, but don't worry about it. So, by the way, I am actually thinking I'll probably just download this video and re-upload it and edit it, because that will make it neater. Anyway, so let's talk about Patreon. The main reason I'm making this video is because we're actually dangerously close to hitting one of my goals on Patreon, which, you know, probably sounds like, oh, that's a good thing. And it is. But also, it means like, if we hit it before I even acknowledge the goal, then that's going to suck. So I just wanted to basically talk about my Patreon goals and explain like my whole situation. So I think, I guess, okay, I'm going to explain like what it is I want to do with Patreon first, which again might sound weird, but what I mean is that my main thing with Patreon is that the thing that I've always wanted to do with like my life is just read a lot. Like that's the thing that I like. I like reading, I like hearing new ideas, encountering new ideas and kind of learning from them, and obviously incorporating them into my own expressions of my own ideas. And that's what I want to do. That's really the reason why I first started doing YouTube, because I was like, hey, this might be a viable way for me to kind of monetize reading, which I want to say is kind of admirable. You know, I hope I'm allowed to say that about myself, in that I never went into YouTube because I was like, oh yeah, I want loads of people to listen to me and pay attention to my ideas, or yeah, because I want to like make loads of money and then hardly have to do any work. The main reason I went into YouTube is because I was like, oh yeah, I want to, you know, spend hours upon hours each day reading and researching and get paid for that. Is knowledge inherently valuable? That's a good question. I don't know. And to be honest, I must admit that one of my issues with the whole I enjoy reading thing is that it does give me loads of existential crises about like, I think, like, is this really worth doing? Like, what's the point in this? I think, personally, I actually think the reason why I do it is because I find it makes me feel more zen to know loads of things. And it's something about reading and like or understanding all these different ideas that makes me feel better. So I guess I'm probably saying, but I would say, to be honest, I would say yes, knowledge is inherently valuable, but I would also say that it's got so many other values beyond that it's almost like it's an example of where yes it is, but it doesn't really need to be, so you might as well just not talk about it. You know, it's like saying sticking your hand in a boiling hot fire. Is that inherently valuable? Well, maybe not, but certainly not getting horribly burnt is pretty amazo-fantastico. So that's that. And basically, I guess the main thing I'm saying, okay, so I get really ticked off, okay, with these YouTube channels, mostly YouTube channels like Sean and ContraPoints and H-Bomber Guy and quite a few others who make like bank from this whole YouTube thing, but then they upload videos like less than once a month, and I think like, what are they doing with their days? You know, I do think like there is something that bothers me about YouTube, because I think YouTube, it's like the idealized version of YouTube is that it's a perfect way to do what you're passionate about and potentially make money from it, that's my view of YouTube. I'm like, yeah, I'm really passionate about reading, so I want to like read loads. And the thing about that is, if that's the case, and it is the case with me, then not only are you going to be willing to do like a 40-hour work week, you're going to be willing to do like way more than a 40-hour work week. Like, you're going to be willing to be like a workaholic. And that's the thing, like within my context, I am like a workaholic when it comes to this, and I like to just read all the time. I like to work on videos all the time. You know, the only issue is that, of course, YouTube arguably isn't my work because I don't get paid like enough for it to be my work. But if it were my work, then I'd be like, oh yeah, I'd be like a workaholic because I just love doing it. I like researching for it and reading for it and all that stuff. Anyway, so the main thing is that it's very important to me personally that if I'm looking down, which I think I need to do less of, if I were making more, then I would work loads. And I guess that brings me on to, I'll say, okay, so I'm going to say it's now, because I might as well say it's now. So the main things I want to talk about is goals and perks, but I might as well talk about perks on Patreon. So the first thing I want to say is that I am, when I've moved into the new house, and the reason why I can't do it until I've moved into the new house is because there's like all sorts of jobs that still need doing. So what I want to do is come up with like a schedule of like, I'm going to spend this amount of time doing YouTube, I'm going to spend this amount of time reading, I'm going to spend this amount of time. Thank you, Guy. I'm a man, so thank you for the question. So I'm going to spend this amount of time reading, I'm going to spend this amount of time doing YouTube, I'm going to spend this amount of time, like exercising. I mean, that obviously doesn't really affect people, but I'm a big fan of the old schedule. I think it's important. And basically to have that and be like, okay, this is what that I'm doing if you give me your money, like I'm spending like what I'm doing in my day, and obviously that way you can make a judgment on whether or not you think, oh yeah, it's worth it to give my money to this. So basically what I want to have is a thing where the smallest perk on Patreon is, hey, you get to see what I'm doing, which to be honest right now my perks are like shit. And the main thing that I want to say right away, and put this in big bold letters, if you can, in your brain put this in big bold letters, I have no idea what the perks on Patreon should be, because I don't know what people want, and it annoys me. And basically I am quite happy with my different systems, my different schemes, my different tiers of $1, because like $1, if you give $1, that is good, and I think also one big reason to give $1 is that it means like that I can say, oh wow, look at all these people who are supporting me, which is obviously not a massive amount of money, but at least it's like lots of people, which I think is kind of valuable, because then I feel like it in some way legitimizes me, and I like to feel legitimized. So yeah, $1 is great. $3, so the reason why I chose $3 is because like I felt like $3 is roughly £2. At one time I was on the bus and I realized that I'd accidentally asked for a single instead of a return, and that therefore I would need to get a single back, which would be, 2 singles is obviously more expensive than 1 return. And it turns out I basically wasted £2 by accidentally saying, can I get a single to blah 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 instead of can I get a return to blah blah blah. And my reaction to realizing that I'd wasted £2 was, like the smallest noise. Point being that I feel like if that's my attitude to losing £2 completely wasted, then I feel like $3 is a pretty reasonable amount for somebody to be, willing to give. So if you've got $3 lying around, then I'm pretty sure you wouldn't miss it. So that's why I have $3. But what I don't have, and this is the issue, okay, I don't have anything really that I can think of as like a reward for $3, because what I have right now is, you can vote on topics, but that's kind of bullshit, because anybody can, like, when people in the comment section suggest topics, I do those topics. So it's very disingenuous for me to have a Patreon category where, like, a Patreon perk of $3 where I say, yeah, you can suggest and vote on topics, and then literally most of the time when I'm looking for topics, I just go to the comment section of my YouTube video. So it's bad. So I guess that's my question, okay? People on $1, I don't, you're just appreciated and you get credits. People on $3, what do you want? That's my question, okay? What is it like? What do people think would be an appropriate perk for people at $3? Anyway, and the other thing is $5, which I realized. So the funny thing is, I was thinking about doing this. I didn't realize that I actually already had this written there, and I've had it written there since ages, which is a live Google Hangout with people who give $5. Obviously, you don't have to come, but yeah, it's something I'd like to do, which I'm going to get into in a second. But basically, yes, that's the thing. So I'm probably going to try and do that next month. Be like, yeah, I'll actually try and throw together a live Google Hangout where like literally the people who give $5 can actually like talk, and we can probably like just riff on things, like some funky stories and stuff like that. So there you go. That's that. And those are the 5 things. I guess like at some point $10 might be an amount to consider, but right now I really just, I don't know. In fact, actually, I feel like someone did give me $10, and I didn't even have a perk for that, so I should probably actually have that. But again, I have to come up with like another thing of like, oh yeah, this is what you get if you give me $10, and that just seems unreasonable to me. Like, I mean, how do you even? What are the rewards you can give someone? I don't know. So basically, let me just stress, okay, again, if you get anything out of this video, what is it that should be given to people for $10? What is the $10 perk for Patreon? I want to know what people want, because $5, someone gave me $50 on Patreon once. Oh, do you have a Patreon, old weird side? I'm going to see if I can find you. I must confess, I didn't know that you did things. And I also don't know. Yeah, weird side, explain yourself. What is it you do? Meanwhile, I'll continue talking. So yeah, you do many things. Yeah, maybe you just, like, that's the thing. I honestly think, basically what I really want is to get those sweet J.K. Rowling bucks. I just feel like if I can just get her attention, she can just sustain me by being like, oh yeah, because like she's not gonna miss anything. She could cover the whole thing and just be like, yeah, sure. I'm like, yeah, thanks, JK, you saved the day. Anyway, I want to talk about, so the main reason I'm doing this, like I say, is because we're actually dangerously close to hitting my first goal, and I haven't ever acknowledged my first goal on this platform. So I just wanted to say what it was, and then you can go, oh, cool, yeah, that sounds fun. So this is, okay, ready? These are my goals. I also gave my goals titles, even though you're actually not, there's not an option to give your goals titles. I just included them in the description, mostly because you can give perks titles, and I just assumed that it would be the same way, but it's not. So, okay, ready for this? First goal, okay? And get hyper, guys, because get hyper. $28 is what we're currently on. $28. At $35, I'll finally finish up the Magdalene Burns Marathon Live, as well as pausing now and then to discuss the video topics or people's comments. So, okay, get hyper, coming in at number 1, the goal number 1, $35. We will finally finish that Magdalene Burns video, and it will probably be two sessions of it. But yeah, you've got no excuse. Come on, $35, and then boom, we can do that. Next one. Okay, ready for this? So I like this one. Okay, so it's $70. I call it doubling down because it's I know it's double $35. For doubling my first tier, I said first tier. I really should have said first goal. I will double the amount of time I spend working on YouTube each week, from 3 hours and 45 minutes to 7 hours and 30 minutes. There you go. If you ever wondered, that's actually not true though. Right now, I'm actually spending more time on YouTube right now than 3 hours and 45 minutes. But that's going to change in the future. So there you go. That's goal 2. $70. Doubling down. In case you were wondering. Then at 140. Actually, I just want to. Goal 140. I mean, no. Goal 3. $140. Again, that's double $70. Is anyone noticing this? Put your Patreon channels back to the page. You know what? Thinking observe it. You are a smart person. Okay. I'm gonna do that. In fact, you know what? I'm gonna link to my Patreon as well. Apparently, also I can change the URL for my Patreon, but if I put it in the comments, there we go. People can see it at least there. Anyway, so let me tell you about this $140. So I actually gave it the title Covering Rent, which is based on the fact that my parents actually charged me a rent of you know what, Thob? You're really helping me out here. I always call you Thob. But yeah. Basically that's, yeah, my parents charged me rent of £100 a month which is nothing. And obviously I'm appreciative of the fact it's so little, but that's $140-ish. I made it up. Like, obviously it's in dollars, so that's just the way it is. And okay, upon reaching this tier, okay, this one's a good one. Okay, this one's like a really good one, so pay attention. For goal 3, and this is $140. Upon reaching this tier, I will start a series where I will go through every single chapter of both volumes of the Transgender Studies Reader. So the Transgender Studies Reader is thank you, Lewis Barnett. You are awesome. So yeah, basically, yeah, goal 3. $140. I will begin to go through, start a series where I go through every single chapter of the Transgender Studies Reader, and basically just, because I've already read it all the way through, and I was, at the time I was reading, I was thinking there's loads of issues with this, and I think it'll be fun to kind of just go through the whole thing and be like, and just razz on it for, you know, and that's like a lot of content right there, because it's like 1 video per chapter. Yeah, loads. I saw people in the comments to the Vorsch debate pointing out that I drink a lot of water, which is really true. It's possibly like it's like the most neutral comment. You know, there's some positive comments, some negative comments, but the most neutral comment is just, wow, this guy drinks a lot of water, which is you got me. Anyway, come in at goal number 4. Okay, $280. So I call this covering books, and the reason I call this covering books, that's the title, is because if I were able to read 1 book a day, which is a possibility based on the fact that, you know, I read like 6 hours and 40 minutes for 6 hours and 40 minutes every single day, if you didn't know, and that means that in theory I could read a whole book in that time, and there are sometimes 28 days in a month. How many liters of water do I drink per day? I don't know. It depends how many liters this is. I think this is 1.5 liters, and I swear I down like 4 of these easily per day. Anyway, so basically the logic was that $280 per month could, in theory, in some circumstances, actually cover the amount if I bought a book every day. Now, obviously, I'm not saying I am going to buy a book every single day. I'm just saying, in theory, I could like buy a book every single day. So that's how much $280 is. And okay, so here's the thing. Appropriately, my thing that I'm going to do when I hit $280 per month, this is goal 4, is release a monthly series where I go through and give a quick review of all the books I've read that month. So at the end of each month I'll be like, hey guys, you know, I read these books, here's what I thought of them, like not like going through like the arguments, just saying, yeah, I thought this was pretty good and maybe you'd recommend it. And you can go, oh, okay, that's cool. That's something he did, and that's great. So, ready for that? Now, $280 per month. Now, here's the thing. Okay, let's get to the old $560. Let's talk about this. See, $560 is, so $560 per month, in case you're confused, is easily the weirdest goal, and I wonder how people will feel about this. This is the one which I am truly the most excited to share with you guys, just because of how strange this goal is. For anyone who's curious, okay. So, basically, I am a really big Simpsons fan, and for a really long time, I've been wanting to start a Simpsons podcast, and there's been like a few reasons why I've been against it. One reason being, well, you know, I don't know if people will be that interested if I don't already have an established web presence, and 2, that I didn't really have anyone to host it with. So these are my thoughts, okay? Hear me out here. I think it's an okay idea. At $560 per month, which, you know, is a way off, so let's not freak out here, but $560, well, actually, like, I say it's a way off. If, like, I would say there's probably easily 280 people who really enjoy my content. And if like all 280 people who really enjoy my content just gave $2 per month, then we would hit this goal instantly, which, you know, obviously in reality, I realize it's never that simple, because some people don't have credit cards, some people just like, and much of a situation that they can't really afford that. And then obviously there's like the bystander effect, people being like, but you know, it's just like, it's interesting to me that there definitely is like 280 people, I'm sure, on like of the 1,000 people who really enjoy my content, and you know, $2 isn't that much. And if all 280 people gave me $2, then bing bang bosh, we'd hit $560 per month instantly. But obviously I'm not expecting that to happen. I am, like I say, hoping that we will hit the old $35 from for the Magdalene Burns Marathon soon. But okay, let's talk about $560 per month, because this is a weird one. Okay, so this is my thoughts, and don't knock it until you've tried it. That's not what I meant to say. I want to start a Simpsons podcast because I'm passionate about it, but this is my thing, okay? And I would like to host it with one of my patrons. And basically, obviously, for any of my patrons who think Simpsons is the shittest thing in the world, well, it's probably not going to appeal to you. But you know, I'm sure it would be of interest to a significant number of people, and I hope it would be of interest to a significant number of people. And it's something which, like I say, I want to start a Simpsons podcast. I really enjoy The Simpsons. I'm just one of those people who watches it all the time. If I'm ever like at a point where I'm like, I can't remember every single thing that happens in that episode, I'll be like, well, I guess I've got to rewatch it. Obviously, when you know, like the new episodes, whatever. But therefore, it's something I want to do anyway. And I'm like, well, obviously, that was my chair, by the way. I just want to record any noise that sounds like my, you know. What is your opinion on South Park? Oh, that's a good question. I actually saw a video, because obviously it's annoying. My YouTube has been very Vorsh centric. I basically had to tell YouTube to stop recommending me his channel, because obviously, you know, I was checking it out a bit in the run up to the debate and things like that. And there was a video called Vorsh Doesn't Understand South Park, which I saw being made in response to Vorsh, because apparently Vorsh was saying he hated South Park. My issue with South Park can be summarized in 2 episodes. In general, like I see, the funny thing is, my favorite episode of South Park is Stanley's Cup. I haven't seen like that many episodes for me to have a strong opinion on it, but Stanley's Cup is basically one where Stan hosts a... See, we don't have this term in the UK. It's either Pee-wee or Kiwi. And I think it's Pee-wee. But obviously, to me, Kiwi like makes sense. So I'm like, oh yeah. You'd think it was... Okay, yeah, Man, Bear, Pig... Oh, okay, so let me just deal with this. Pee-wee is... It's a Pee-wee ice hockey team. And basically, the thing I like about it is the whole episode just plays out like a sports biopic. But then, at the end, the team that Stan's coaching just gets really fucked up. And my favorite bit of the episode is when like one of the other team members who's like fucking up Stan's team, his dad just shows up and he's like, I'm proud of you, son. And they have like this romantic moment, or like not romantic moment, but like cathartic moment. And I just find it so funny that that like, because obviously that would make sense if it was like the other way around. Like if it was, it's kind of, I guess the reason I find it funny is because it's very difficult to explain why it's funny, and that's the kind of humor I like. I like the kind of humor where it's really difficult to explain why it's funny. So, okay, let's talk about, you know what, and someone's mentioned Man, Bear, Pig, so I guess I should say there's 3 episodes of South Park I don't really like. Did I see the episode about the transgender athletes? No. And definitely I think that that's something which I could be interested in. The thing is, I haven't watched many recent episodes of South Park. I've watched a lot of the ones, I think a lot of the more classic ones. I don't know exactly. I feel like South Park's one of the shows that hasn't really deteriorated in quality. I don't know if people disagree with me on that who like know about South Park. But yeah, I've mostly just watched some of the older ones. So I'll go through the 3 which I think, for me, demonstrate my issue with South Park. I'm sure that I would find some of the trans athlete one quite funny. I don't know if I'd necessarily predict it would make some really good points, but the 3 ones I don't really like. Okay, so Man, Bear, Pig would be 1 just because it's like stupid because, you know, global warming is actually an issue. I don't, on the one hand, I think it's so stupid that I'm like, well, it's not really making a massive issue. The second one I dislike is the election one, the giant douche or a turd sandwich. And the reason I dislike it, and that's the thing, like, these episodes, they're not necessarily episodes I dislike, but they all demonstrate something I dislike about South Park. So obviously the Man Bear Pig one just demonstrates the way they're like, they like to think they're so smart, they don't even care about real issues. And obviously, you know, global warming is a big issue, but it's like, oh, South Park's funny because, you know, they act as if it was an issue. But the reason why I don't like the turd sandwich and giant douche one is because it's like, it's all very clever, where obviously it's set up so the choice is between a giant douche and a turd sandwich. And then, and I don't remember all the different characters, I can't really remember how it works. It's probably Stanley. Is he just called Stan? I don't know. I'm not really an expert. Or is it Kyle? I know the two normal ones are Stan and Kyle, and I don't really know what the difference is between Stan and Kyle, because I feel like they're both just like the straight men. Because obviously there's Kenny who dies all the time, there's Cartman who's like a dickhead, and I feel like, what's the difference between Stan and Kyle in terms of their characterization? I don't know. Anyway, I think it's Stan, it might be Kyle, runs away to like a commune, I think an anarchist commune, and he's like, oh man, I hate this election because it's between a giant douche and a turd sandwich. And then this guy says, all elections are between a giant douche and a turd sandwich. And it's just like, oh, well done, thank you for explaining the point of the episode, because it was a bit too subtle. Like, I don't get it. You literally have, it's annoying because it's already not subtle to begin with. But you're like, okay, it's kind of funny because they've set it up so it's like a choice between a giant douche and a turd sandwich, and obviously that's a commentary on the way that a lot of elections are, where you've got to pick the lesser of two evils. But then to have a character literally just go, all elections are like that. It's like, do you really not trust your audience at all to actually pick up the joke? That because we didn't need you to say that all elections, we already understood what the joke was, and you just really, yeah. So I didn't like that. And the final one is the Cartoon Wars one, and the reason I don't like it is because it's the way that, the one thing everyone says about South Park is they're really good at like, oh, both sides and blah 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 blah. But my issue is, I find that one thing that all shows are really bad at is both sidesing the free speech issue. You know, like actually showing how supporting hyper free speech to the exclusion of all else is actually kind of has issues with it. And, you know, I'll say, for example, ContraPoints' video on where there's like a Dave Rubin parody. It's like the Freedom Report, where everything's up for debate. I find that funny because it's like, yeah, to be honest, the idea that like everything should always be up for debate all the time, regardless of, you know, how abhorrent it is kind of an issue in some ways. And obviously, I should clarify that I've recently becoming far more down on the side of the absolute free speech view, especially since in the UK there are a lot of issues with criticising transgender identity politics and free speech. However, I want to make myself more up in the air, but also I am touching my dick, so I want to move that out of the way. Not in like a gross way, but just in like, you know, like sometimes you just have your hand down there, and I didn't want people to think it was in a gross way, but I also didn't want people to think I was trying to hide it. So I think if I mentioned it, then people would be like, well, if it was a gross way, he wouldn't have mentioned it. He would have just kind of tried to disguise it. Anyway, so yeah, basically, they always try and both sides it, and that's the thing. But on the free speech issue, cartoons are really bad at doing that, and I think people don't tend to have yes, paradox of tolerance. Well done, and basically what annoys me about it is that the episode is that Cartman has he takes the free speech, the anti-free speech side, the let's be conscious of Muslims' feeling side, and they can't even like make him actually represent that position. Instead, his only reason for supporting that position is because he wants to destroy Family Guy. And he's like, yeah, if we get rid of free speech, then, and it's kind of funny that like both, even because I think I'll admit this, like I have like I say, I have concerns about free speech. I do think there are some genuine, especially in the UK, there are some genuine concerns about free speech. But the idea of like, oh man, if you ban one thing, then you've got to ban everything, is stupid. Like, yeah, okay, there are genuine things which I think I have concerns could be banned in the UK or made illegal in the UK or whatever else, in terms of free speech. But I think it's stupid to be like, oh man, if you ban this one thing, everything's going to be banned. Which, to be honest, I also think it's kind of a weird way of phrasing it, because it's like, it almost implies free speech isn't even an intrinsically good thing. You're basically just saying, no, well, free speech, it doesn't matter whether or not Nazis are allowed to speak. The only issue is that if Nazis aren't allowed to speak, then next thing we know, liberals won't be allowed to speak, which is, illogical. Like, I would say that, yes, for example, people should be allowed to criticize transgender identity politics, but they shouldn't be allowed to do that because of a slippery slope or anything like that. It shouldn't be like, well, if people aren't allowed to criticize transgender identity politics, then next thing you know, people won't be allowed to criticize the food at the restaurant they're eating at. It should just be like, no, people should be allowed to criticize it because people should be allowed to criticize it. But the whole episode, the entire conceit of the episode is that if everything's banned, if you ban one thing, you have to ban everything. That's like the entire conceit of the episode, which is a very obviously stupid position, and one which would be perfectly ripe to be lampooned. Like somebody just saying, oh yeah, if you ban this one thing, you have to ban everything. Like, it almost sounds like, literally as you say it, that it's like a stupid position. Like, it almost sounds like the position itself is a joke. And yet, not only do they not lampoon that position, but the one person they have on the free speech side, Cartman, his entire motivation is that exact thing. That he's like, oh, well, if we ban... if Family Guy can't show pictures of Muhammad, then someday they won't be allowed to show pictures of anything. And it's like, it's stupid. And there's actually a Simpsons episode with the exact same thing that annoys me. It's the one where Marge bans violence, and Dr. Marvin Monroe, basically at the end, the Moral Crusade want to ban the statue of David too. And obviously, there is a sophisticated conclusion you can draw about, like, well, censorship and all that stuff. But basically, Marvin Monroe, the kind of final thing that closes the debate is Marvin Monroe says, hold on a minute, Marge, how can you be against one form of expression but support another? Which is just like such a weird sentence. Like, how can you be against one form of expression but support another? Like, which, because, form of expression is a very broad term. And I don't know, I just found that really funny how stupid that was. So ultimately, what do I think of South Park? I think basically they are a circle jerk. I don't think they're particularly clever. I don't think they're particularly insightful. I think that, yes, if I were to watch their content on the few issues where I do agree with them, I would probably find it quite funny. But I don't agree with this idea that they're like some really intelligent people who are making fun of both sides and triggering everybody. I actually think that South Park's kind of stupid and basically the closest thing to a cartoon circle jerk for people who agree with them. I don't actually think like they're like, oh man, I disagree with South Park and this stuff, but I find them really funny. I don't know if people are like that. I mean, maybe that is true, but I kind of feel like a lot of the people who are like South Park lampoons both sides are the exact same people who also disagree with both sides. So yeah, that's my issue on South Park. Anyway, I will just finish up my weird Simpsons podcast idea. So yeah, basically start a Simpsons podcast and have one of my patrons be a co-host, because I think that would be cool. I think it would be a good way to like give back to the people who supported me. That like one person who really wants to could be like, hey, you just get to be a content producer. And obviously, if the podcast did make money, then split the money 50-50, bing bang bosh, it would be pretty good for the person who's picked. And I think that's a good deal. Like, I think that's, I don't know, I think it's very inventive. Like, I hate to, blow myself here, but I think it's quite an inventive goal, and I think that it's one where it's 100% worth getting behind. And like I say, very weirdly, $560 is actually very achievable in terms of probably the number of subscribers I have who actually enjoy my content, and the number of, and the amount of money, disposable income the average person has. But obviously I actually don't want to reach $560 too fast, because I've got so much other stuff to do. And finally, I actually did come up with 10 of these, but I only added in 6 because I was like, let's slow down, okay? So if you're wondering what my final Patreon goal is, at $1,125 per month, which is, well, okay, so I called it Half-Time Job. That's its title, and the reason why is because based on my calculations and like some general kind of thoughts, a bit of research, a bit of thinking, I think that at so at $2,250 per month, I could actually do this full time without any issues. But obviously, I'm not going to have it going up to 2,250 when currently I'm at 28. That just seems a bit premature. But I did think, let's go crazy here. Let's include this $1,125 goal. And yeah, so it's a half-time job, and this is a good goal, I think. So I am a journalist. Well, I said no, that's not what I want to say. I am doing a master's in journalism. That's a better thing to say. Saying like I'm a journalist implies like that I'm a journalist, which I'm not. But I am doing a master's in journalism. Journalism is ultimately in the event, which I'm kind of expecting, that because I'm probably going to try and get a job around October, because I actually graduate in November, but I don't really have to stick around till I graduate, so I'm probably going to look to get a job in October, and it's hopefully going to be journalism. So once I've reached this point, hopefully I'll be able to go like half-time. So whatever job I'm doing, if I was able to get $1,125, count them, 1,125, then I would go half-time. I would do this half-time, which would be awesome. And the other thing I would do is I would like to produce a full-on investigative documentary series on this channel exploring the Drop the T movement in the LGBT, and obviously in this case the LGB community, and basically looking at the history of it, trying to investigate those people, because the one thing I actually have got pretty good at this whole journalism thing, like because you do it as a master's and you kind of learn how to approach people, how to make connections, how to like email people, and it's actually surprisingly interesting, or like easy to get a hold of people. Like it's surprising, I think, that like I wanted to make a for my recent project I had to do, I wanted to write something on the East African Federation, and it is surprisingly easy to get a hold of high-ranking East Africans. I say high-ranking. I was able to get a hold of a local community leader who is part of an expatriate community in the UK, and I was able to get a hold of somebody who'd written a lot of other journalistic work about it, things like that. So basically, given that was all within just like for one little assessment worth only a couple of marks in my master's degree. So I'm thinking that based on that skill that I've got, based on that experience I have, and the more experience I'm going to have, that I will be able to produce a documentary series, maybe like 10, 20-minute episodes, I'm not sure, exploring different facets of, that Drop the T movement in the LGBT community. And that is my final goal that I've got on my Patreon. So, that's everything I want to say. But I guess I should conclude a bit. So, one, if anybody has any ideas for perks, just mention them. Just say like, oh yeah, I think I've got a good idea for a perk. Why don't you shut the fuck up? Just imagine that, like $3 perk. I'll shut the fuck up. It's like, oh no, someone gave it. I can't make videos anymore. Anyway, that would be funny. Like, what if someone had like a Patreon goal, like a Patreon milestone, and it was like at $10,000 a month, I'll stop making videos. That would actually be quite funny. But my channel's too serious for such memes. Anyway, so yeah, if you've got any ideas for perks, let me know. I feel like my sister's gonna walk in. I'm gonna go, hi. She's gonna go, hi. Anyway, so if you've got any ideas for perks, let me know. Magdalene Burns, $35. We're gonna complete that Magdalene Burns thing. So get hyper, okay? $35, not much. But, okay, really what we want, let's be honest here, let's be real, we can do this, guys. The old $70. $70 and I can double, I say I can. It's not, there's no can about it. Like, it's not like $70 makes a difference. It's just that I've, if anything, arbitrarily constricted the amount of time that I'm currently working, just so that I can double it once we hit $70. Once we hit $70, double the amount of time, double the amount of videos, although not relative to now, because I'm actually like kind of I've been doing more than I should be recently because I've been so excited about the whole thing. But, you know, double the amount of videos. It's going to be great. $70. Let's do it. We're going to be doing 2.5 hours every single day, working on it just because I'll have that time to do it. And it's $70. Obviously, it's worth it. It's going to be really hype. Let's talk about that old, $140. You know what we're doing for that $140? The big. It's going to be great. We're doing, okay, let me clarify this, $140. If you can believe it, we're going to be doing one video on every single chapter of the Transgender Study Reader, 2 volumes of that Transgender Study Reader. Let me just clarify the value of this. Like, you don't understand the value of this product, guys. Okay, so $140. I'm going to be getting this entire big fucking book, okay, filled with like all the best arguments these queer theorists have. Like, I've read this book already. I know I can do it. I know I can just. It's just gonna be a matter of like going through it. One chapter of video. Just gonna say, hey, look at what this idiot said. They don't know shit. Basically, that's gonna be the video. Some of them will be long, some of them will be short. But one chapter of the Transgender Studies Reader. Each video. We're gonna be going for it. $140. I mean, how about that? Like, that's nothing right there. Let's be honest, guys. We can get that $140. I shouldn't really be pushing this hard for the goals like way out there this early on. Like, I'm like on $28. Like, come on, guys, $140. That's 50 times. Is that right? Or is that 5 times? That's only. Oh, that's interesting. So it's only 5 times what I'm currently making. So I'm making $28 right now. Times that by 5, that's $140. So yeah, $140, just 5 times, okay? Like, basically, the number of people, okay, who are currently giving to me, just times that by 5, and do you know what you're getting? You're getting one video per chapter, every single chapter, 2 volumes of the Transgender Studies Reader. Come on, guys, let's get with this. Let's get hyper. And what else? Okay. Let's just keep going. You know, I mean, this is getting ridiculous because I'm getting like way above $280. Okay, look, okay, currently, yeah, sure, got $28. But you know, 10 times that. It's just 10 times more people give 10 times the amount on Patreon. When guess what I'm going to be doing? Okay, you will not believe this. I will be making a monthly series where I'll be going through all the books that I read each year. What about Swerfs? That's a good question. I actually see, the funny thing is, okay, the first videos I did that swerved into radical feminist territory and kind of actually got people interested was more swerfy stuff. Specifically, ContraPoints made a video against kink shaming, and the arguments were not very good. And I basically, I haven't actually watched that video like in ages, but I'm pretty sure it was just lots of fun. And yeah, Swerfs. I do want to do more stuff about that. I have a plan for a video. One of them is going to be called like some pornography is bad, and kink is kink shaming. But yeah, so the first video is going to be called Some Pornography is Bad. The point of that video is just going to be like arguing against these crazy people who literally say like any pornography, no matter how misogynistic, no matter how degrading, no matter how abusive, no matter what else, it's all fine. And obviously I'm going to argue like quite firmly no. And I'm going to make a video again. Like, the thing is with that video, I would have to do a lot of research, which is fine, like, but that's going to be a thing where, obviously, yes, the more you give on Patreon, the more I can, like, buy books relevant to that, the more comfortable I can be, like, allotting time to that, where, you know, without having to think, like, I'm wasting time when I could be doing other stuff, the more time I can spend, like, reading about it. So obviously, yeah, there's definitely an incentive. If you want to see me produce, like, more swerfy stuff, then definitely Patreon is good, because that's going to require a slight shift in focus, and obviously, yeah, to do a shift in focus, obviously
is going to be something which I'm going to have to be able to kind of financially justify, because right now I'm in quite a good situation where I'm able to produce lots of content and I know about it, and therefore I don't necessarily have to do too much excessive work, which is good, because obviously if I start doing excessive work and I'm not getting like massive rewards, that's how you get burnout. So like that's what I've realized. That's kind of the one thing I've realized, is that you don't want to like just spend ages like doing this massive research project and then upload it and then it only gets like 500 views. Thank you for the book idea. Review idea is good. And let me just remind you, it's the low price of $280 whatevers. Anyway, so yeah, Swerve. Oh, and sorry, just clarify. And then the second series, as you can guess, the second video. So the first video is called "Some Pornography is Bad," where I'm just going to argue, yeah, like some of it's bad. Come on, guys, can we at least agree on that? And the second video is one which I am not as comfortable making, where I would actually have to have a decent amount of really good, solid research under my belt, which would be like all pornography is bad. And even then, like, you know, it might not be. I mean, the issue is like, what if two people have sex and like, I don't know, they have a webcam on accidentally. Well, I guess, you know, that was a bad example. Okay, like I'm basically what I'm saying is like you could make it like there's some very exceptional circumstances where it's like okay, but I think the argument you're obviously making is that the industry on the whole is bad. That ultimately, while there might be isolated examples of like times where it's 100% consensual, 100% like no risk of children being exposed to it or anything like that, that it could be okay, but basically we're so far away from that point that it's more accurate to just say it's all bad. A bit like the whole, I think a good analogy for it would be like all cops are bastards. Like, you know, it's not, and actually, you know what, that's a great point right there, because, you know, if you say like, oh, all pornography is bad, people go like, oh no, it's not, because my friend makes amateur pornography with his girlfriend, and they both really get along, and it's, you know, like really softcore, and it's lovely and it's wonderful, and he's always respectful to her and she's always respectful to him, and it's just an expression of love and blah 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 blah. And I'll be like, okay, yeah, I can accept that that might be okay, but that doesn't fundamentally change what the pornography industry is. And it's basically, it's literally like if you said all cops are bastards, but well, actually no, because my uncle Steve is a cop and he's like really nice to everybody, and he's never mean to anyone, and he, like, you know, always smiles when he pulls people over or whatever. And you'd be like, okay, yeah, sure, like he may actually be like a genuinely nice guy, but it doesn't change what the kind of police are as an institution. So there we go, that's my take right there, that you can steal. Like a lot of these people, like anybody who says like, oh, you know, you're wrong to say that all pornography is bad, ask them if they think all cops are bastards, because it's basically the same thing. Like, yeah, that's true, yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, like with pornography, there's like so many different kind of variables to it. And yeah, I definitely would concede that there is some hypothetical situation where pornography could be good, but like I say, there are some hypothetical situations where, oh, that cop's a really nice guy. And because obviously, yeah, there are some cops who are nice people, but the issue is when you say all cops are bastards, you're kind of criticizing the fundamental system of the police force. And just the same way, you say like all pornography is bad or all pornography is like misogynistic, what you're really criticizing is the industry. So there you go. There is, yeah, the sexual objectification issue of women that is pretty inherent. Yeah, I do think that. I mean, basically, I think that's the other thing, and I feel like it's kind of a bit of a Andrea Dworkin-y point, where how misogynistic something is in itself is also affected by the context of how women are understood in that society. So obviously I'm talking about the whole like well, what's generally misrepresented as being the all heterosexual sex is rape thing, which obviously the more specific reason she said that is because, or obviously she didn't specifically say that, but the position of women in society is such that you can never ignore that context when you're looking at sexual encounters. And obviously the solution there isn't to just say, well, no one's allowed to have sex. The solution there is to change how women are viewed, and it matters because like the oppression of women is inherent in most different ways. I think in a similar way, yeah, if you were ever going to have a situation where pornography could be justified, you'd have to reach a situation where the view of women was really fundamentally changed. So, yeah, and ultimately I think the proper thing to do would just be to I guess some guys old Barnett is implying that, or saying, I don't know why I said implying, I always like using the word implying, it's probably because of 4chan, you know, they always like implying that, yeah, obviously workers' rights is a big thing, and I think, yeah, that's definitely one reason why amateur pornography is can have better aspects to it, but even then it's difficult because you don't know whether or not because fun fact, husbands can be abusive. Don't know if people knew that. So yeah, it's not like, oh, it's you know, a couple, so it's fine. That doesn't really make sense. So yeah, I think that's the other issue with it. You can never know. It's very difficult to know, and you kind of reach a point where it's like, ultimately, all the stuff necessary. Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, how about criticize people don't feel the need to get into the sex industry in the first place. It's actually very funny because I'm actually working on a video which I think is going to clock in at over an hour. It's this article. So I don't know if people know Laurie Penny. She's a British journalist who writes for papers like The Guardian and things like that. She's very kind of, she's like every girl at university in the world, basically. And yeah, she wrote an article like called "Transphobia has no place in feminism," and it's basically obviously criticizing gender critical feminism, all that stuff. One of the funny things though is that she spends loads of time mentioning sex workers. She's like sex workers, sex workers, sex workers, and then she says, in conclusion to her point, working class. So, and it's kind of like a bit weird because it's almost like a concession that, oh yeah, sex workers are predominantly people who are on the poor end of the social spectrum, people who, you know, need to sell their bodies for money, which is obviously, again, you could say, and actually that's another thing I want to do a video on. Again, it's a video where I'd have to do a lot of research to make sure I wasn't just kind of saying something stupid or like misrepresenting things, but you know that meme? It's like, if you think, why was my chair making noise? Anyway, that meme where it's like, if you think that sex workers sell their bodies but coal miners don't, blah 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 blah. I do want to make a whole like video on that where I really get deep into the philosophy of that statement, but the main thing it reminds me of is people who compare taxation to rape, because it's obviously like the difference there is there's a difference between selling your body in terms of like doing a thing and being paid to do that thing, and literally your body is the commodity, and like I think that's not an insignificant difference. Obviously I think that workers' rights are important as well, but anyway, I don't really feel any need to finish up, go into the rest of the goals, because to be honest the other goals are sufficiently in the future. So yeah, I'll just mention the book review thing, and apart from that, that's the Patreon aspect done, and obviously I'm gonna just see if good, right. So yeah, I'm gonna what I'm probably gonna do, by the way, is publish this and then download it and then edit it a bit to make it more, well, to the point. But until then, yeah, just seeing transhumanist TCAN to can comment, and yeah, it's definitely like, and it's, let's just say, to put things mildly, the issue is fraught. So there's that. Anyway, I didn't want to make this like a massively long thing, but I guess Any other questions? Is probably appropriate because I don't want to make it too long. And like I said, I do actually have this. Okay, let me tell you. I'm going to tell you right now how many words this next script I have to do. Like I started recording it. It's the first time when I've ever like started recording something and then realized I'm not going to be able to finish it by the end of the day. Because I started recording it today, and okay, let me tell you how. Okay, this is like insane. Oh wow. Okay, it keeps going. It keeps okay. Oh wow. Okay, I mean it's not as insane as I thought maybe, but it's clocking in at 12,320 words. Who will I debate next? Okay, that's an awesome question from NCorp. I have had several people from like different kind of sources. I've also had so I'm really annoyed because actually I'm struggling. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. I'm just going to have to get it up. He made like a really good series on John Money. Rubble of Empires. I think that's it. Let me just check I'm right about this. I don't look like an idiot because that would be embarrassing. Yes. Who's actually got 671 subscribers, which is great. Rubble of Empires is somebody who has done this really great stuff about the history of the transgender movement. So he's actually a good guy. My bicep looks really skinny there, like almost, I don't know, like I'm not being insecure about it or anything. I think it was the lighting just made it look like tiny. I don't know. It was weird. Like I don't know. I felt like it looked very malnourished. Anyway, this guy Rubble of Empires makes some really good content about the history of being the transgender movement. He is good, and he mentioned he was like, hey, I'd kind of be interested about going on the show with you at some point just to have like a little talk. And I was like, yeah, that would be awesome. So I'd like to have him on, which would just be a discussion. Obviously not a debate because we kind of agree, and I think that would be really cool. I've also had several people say hey, I'd like to debate you. A lot of people who've said either something like, I'm a fan of Walsh, but I disagree with some significant aspects of his understanding of gender, and I'd be interested to talk to you so basically people who've said like they disagree with Walsh, but they also disagree with me, and they'd like to talk. I think I've had like 3 people say that in different contexts, which is interesting. And then I had one person who just said, I'm a trans woman, can I debate you on are trans women? Blah 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 blah. I will say I think I'd be quite good at moderating a debate. Mostly because I like to think that my top priority is actually understanding other people. I actually have this really good question, which I always use whenever I engage in a political debate. I actually think it's a really good question. You can steal it if you like. The question is, you ask somebody, what is the one thing you believe which you feel everyone should agree with you on because it's just so obviously true? I think that's like a really good thing to ask someone in a political debate, because basically it gets to like the thing where they think, well, this is like what I believe is obviously true. I think that's like interesting as a question to ask someone. So there we go. There's my little tip. If you ever get in like a political debate with someone, or you ever just want to have a political debate with someone, or someone says, hey, I want to have a political debate with you, someone like puts a gun to your head and goes, have a political debate with me, ask them, what is the one issue where you feel everyone should agree with you because you're just really obviously in the right? Like for me, I think it would just be environmentalism, which I know is weird. That's like a bit of a twist because I don't really talk about environmentalism, but that's actually probably my issue, which I'd be like, well, obviously, like, it doesn't matter who you are, you should want to reduce pollution and things like that.
Anyway, yeah. So, but I guess so. People are mentioning like the validity of debates and things like that. I think I like discussion. Something I would genuinely love, and it's one reason why I would really love to hit, I guess quintuple digit subscribers, five digits. Let's say that like a normal person. 5-digit subscribers, would be to try and get the attention of somebody like ContraPoints. Because what I would love is obviously ContraPoints is the big, massive transgender YouTuber. But to have basically a discussion, where debate if you like, but literally like over several sessions where the intention wouldn't really be to try and change each other's minds. And the only reason why I say the intention wouldn't be to change each other's minds is because I feel like if that was the intention of the debate, then it would just be too fraught with like ego. Because that's the thing, I think the issue sometimes is if it's like, I know it sounds like good to be like, I want to go into this debate to change someone's mind, but I think if you're dealing with issue where like it's somebody's big thing, you're like, yeah, I want to change their mind, well, then obviously it's like, well, you know, they're trying to prove me wrong. Whereas I feel like the best thing would just be to come to more of an understanding. And I think that would be quite valuable. So I would actually really like to at some point just have, and basically what I mean when I say that is, so like even for example, great, love it. Thank you for that comment. Anyway, so what I would like is to do a discussion series of ContraPoints where I would explain like where I come from, and ContraPoints would explain where he comes from with the whole gender thing, and then I think to tell you the truth, that comment, the why is he so hot, it might be, and the reason why I bring this up is because I think it could be a reference to the fact that several people on on the debate with Vorsh were really angry about the fact that they thought I was attractive. I tweeted about it actually. I said like, it's really weird that like the debate with Vorsh, like loads of his fans, there's like basically three points of view. This is what I realized. There's three kinds of Vorsh fans. There's Vorsh fans who think that I'm really attractive. There's Vorsh fans who think I look like a woman, and there's Vorsh fans who think that I have a receding hairline, which is actually not true. It's actually really funny though, because before the debate, I was complaining, and I said that I didn't like my hairline, and I was literally like looking in the mirror, and I was like, "Look, man, it goes so far back," and everyone was like, "Nah, it's fine." And then I got in the debate, and like I was looking through some of the comments, and like there, yeah, like I said, there were like three categories of people. There were some people like, "Oh, he's quite attractive." There were some people going, "He looks like a femboy," which actually I really enjoy about, because I find that so funny, because like I think that was based on one, the fact I have long hair, which is very weird, because like is that even like, I mean, yeah, sure, I realize women tend to have long hair, but the idea of like having long hair is like a really feminine thing is weird to me. But two, I feel like a massive part of it was just I was wearing a pink tank top, and the reason I was doing that is because it was really hot, and the first tank top I found was one that happened to be pink. And I just find it funny that these people who say like, oh yeah, we have like this sophisticated understanding of gender, where, you know, we understand the complexities of gender expression and gender identity, and then it's like, oh wow, he's wearing a pink tank top, he must be he must be a woman secretly. It's like, oh, I don't know. Anyway, and yeah, whatever. So basically, I actually, yeah, I because I tweeted like the literal comment that I tweeted was somebody saying, "Why is he hot?" and then an angry face. So I don't know. And I just find that weird. Exactly. Also, I don't know. Like I could talk about that debate still so much, mostly because I actually haven't listened to the whole debate all the way back through. I've just kind of occasionally looked at some of the comments, and to be honest, like I could milk that debate for a very long time, because I was looking through some of the comments and I was thinking I could literally do a whole video where I just respond to the comments on Vorsh's upload. I could do, like I said, well, the thing is, I think I have thought about doing like a little update. Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, I think I remember him saying something like that. And then what was I thinking? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, basically. What am I saying? Where was I? Men, Vorsh, terrible, human. Oh yeah, there was actually, I don't know, there was this one person who, like, I think the funniest thing about the Vorsh debate was the number of people who came away thinking I was an essentialist, even though I wasn't. But the best thing was there were loads of comments responding saying like, here's the problem with essentialism, and they literally all stated the exact issue I stated, where, because like the bit I'll always remember, and it's the bit like stays in my mind the most, is when I was like, well, I wouldn't say I'm a biological essentialist because I think biology plays a big part in gender identity, but you can't point to one thing and say that's what makes somebody the gender they are. And then literally like within 5 seconds of me saying that, Vorsh is like, tell me how much testosterone you need to be a man. And it's just like, and for some reason, like, you literally had like people in the comments being like, yeah, you showed him, that's what he gets for being an essentialist. And it's just stupid. But yeah, and that's why, like, literally as I was looking through the comments, I was just thinking I could so milk those comments, just to make fun of them. Could milk the live stream comments, and of course, yeah, the actual reaction, the actual debate itself. And what else? There's nothing else really. I think actually I will say this, okay, the one craziest thing about having 1K subscribers is that I can no longer see it's crazy, but you can no longer see when you've got like a new subscriber. If that, like, it doesn't count subscribers in the single digits anymore. In fact, I think it only counts subscribers in like the hundreds. So I've got to get that, I'm not going to know until I get 1.1. I'm just wondering. Actually, yeah, there was another thing. Like, first of all, there was something really funny where, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. I keep saying like, I'm not really going to talk about it, so I'm kind of just going to let it digest for a bit. But like, obviously there were loads of people saying like, he must secretly be a self-hating trans person. And there was a funny thing where someone said, I see a lot of self-loathing and projection here. And then someone else said, yeah, I used to be like this person back before I became trans. And I was like, I don't see how they can't see the irony of saying like, there must be some projection here. Yeah, there must be. Because that's what I was like before I realized I was trans. It's like, so literally you're projecting your experience onto me. Like, that's literally the definition of projection, to be like, yeah, this person must be like this because that's what I'm like. You're literally saying the text mark definition of projection while you're accusing me of projection. But also, like, it's just really weird because, like, I could genuinely see the idea of like somebody who is vitriolically hateful of trans people would be might secretly actually have gender dysphoria or something like that, and they hate themselves because they've got gender dysphoria. But I would suspect that it's weird to me that somebody could see me, because the worst thing you can say about me, I saw that. The worst thing that you could say about me is you could say that I am overly intellectual to the point of being indifferent to the plight of trans people, which is, sure, I can understand somebody saying, I don't like that, I find that morally objectionable, but it's certainly not hatred. And to suggest that like it can only be explained by some kind of weird internal conflict where actually I'm secretly transgender is very strange. Like, yeah, sure, if I'd gone on there and gone like, oh, I fucking hate trans people, that's so weird and gross, then I could see something like, oh wow, he seems to really hate trans people, maybe he's like got some issues with it or something. But for me to just go, yeah, I don't really agree that understanding the category of women to include trans people could yeah, so that's a good point. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I got into, yeah, that's the strange thing. Like, it was actually interesting that there seemed to be one person, like someone mentioned somebody saying that they're trying to save me as a comment, and oh sorry, Lewis Barnett asked if I was vegan and I kind of ignored it. I might have asked if I was vegetarian. So it's actually really funny because I have been like, I've had this video which I've been working on very slowly for ages now, which was, I felt like I just overemphasized the R, like I was American, like for ages now, where let's make this a sentence, where I went to Bruges and I went on a trip, and basically there's one point where I start eating some ribs and I literally take the opportunity to go on a massive rant about whether, well, not really a rant, like a whole thing on whether or not I'm vegan. And to answer the question, I think that veganism is, hello Virtual, I think that veganism is the morally superior position. I think that I don't respect vegans who are like, oh, I'm a vegan, but I don't think I'm better than other people. I think ultimately, if you're gonna go to the effort of being a vegan, you should fucking own it and be like, yeah, I'm way better than everyone else. Which is like, I don't know, I feel like that's literally something no one else said. Like, everyone else like, oh, I don't mind vegans, just not like the vegans who think they're better than other people. I'm literally the opposite. I'm like, if you're going to be a vegan, I think you should commit to it and be like, yeah, I'm a vegan, and that's because I'm like not an arsehole. Me personally, I will say I am conscious about reducing my meat intake, but I have one very weird and not particularly great reason for not being a vegan, and it's to do with I like traveling. I'm going to start my mic, 1 second. That's another thing. Like, I feel like, I don't know, I do sound kind of obsessed, but there was like somebody commented on the post-debate live stream, and they said, oh, he finally turned on the light in his room. And it's like, yeah, because it was light when the debate started, and then by the time the debate was over it was dark, which is like what happens in the evening. So yeah, like, and I would have had to get up to turn on the light anyway. So yeah, the vegan basically the reason why I'm not a vegan in some sense, and there are like a few other reasons, there are some complexities to it, but if I had to simplify it, I would say the reason I'm not a vegan is because I like traveling, and I think that participating in other cultures, which is something that I do find interesting, is severely limited if you aren't a vegan. If you aren't willing to eat meat. It's actually another reason why, even though I don't drink, I wish I did drink, because I think, again, one aspect of participating in other countries' cultures, I think, is also in being willing to drink. So overall, it's not a great reason not to be a vegan, but I certainly am interested. The thing is, if I am a vegan, or if I was vegan, and to the extent I'm a vegan, which is to say I'm not a vegan, but to the extent I think veganism is a good thing, it's for environmental reasons. And yeah. Yes, okay, yeah, someone says yeah. So basically I think that we should seriously reduce red meat consumption. I eat a lot of chicken, which I think is probably, I think the thing about chicken is there's like a valid ethical complaint about the way chickens are treated, which is obviously shitty, and I don't know, like, obviously I can't say with certainty that every single chicken I eat is in a good situation, but hopefully, but when it comes to cattle and stuff, I think obviously, yeah, it's important to be conscious of why it's a good thing. Why it's a good thing to not have it. And to be honest, yeah, I would think, I will also say this actually, I'm not a big believer
in personal, like taking personal accountability for your actions in a way, like, and this is something which I'm going to possibly get into at some point when I make a whole video on my politics, but yeah, see, someone says, yeah, the key point is to make laws. And see, for me, here's the thing, like, I'm not a vegan, but and again, like, the thing is, I think there's a big difference between, like, I think you can have some meat consumption and it be valid. I would say the big example is chicken, because I think, like, you can have, like, chicken coops just around, and I don't really see any reason why that would need to be terrible for the environment. Obviously, you know, like, don't factory farm them, but if we just, like, completely focused on chicken, it would be, like, a much healthier form of protein, you know, like, much better for people, and, you know, you can have chicken, which is nice. But yeah, like, if there was a law which said, like, oh, you know, ban all red meat, just to keep it simple, I would vote yes on that law. But I personally do eat red meat, like, sometimes. But and the reason why I do it is because I'm like, well, I know that ultimately me not eating it fundamentally doesn't make a difference, and therefore I'm kind of just making life worse for myself, just to just for, like, you know, my own sense of morality. Yeah, I agree with this. Yeah, that there is an extent to which environmental issues can become very class-based, and that obviously does suck. I will say that I think I'm very firmly a collectivist, in that I tend to view society in a much more, like, communal way. So I don't really focus mostly on the individual decision aspect of things. I'm more interested in, like, how does society deal with its food issue? And so I don't really think about it in terms of how do I personally choose to get food. I think about, like, okay, we have a society, how's that society going to feed its people? I think about it in terms of, like, how should you cycle to work instead of driving? Well, I'm more interested in, like, we need robust public transport. So I tend to prefer to focus on issues that are more collective when it comes to sustainability and things like that. So yeah, someone says, yeah, it matters to the animals. Okay, I get that, and that's true. But ultimately, I think the problem is that there is definitely not a one-to-one correlation between because I get what you're saying, the consumption of animals is a very direct form of harm, but the problem is there's not a direct one-to-one correlation between the amount that one individual eats and what's happening to the animals. Like, obviously, I mean, for one thing, I'm pretty sure, like, you know how supermarkets throw loads of stuff away? Well, I'm pretty sure, like, supermarkets must throw away meat, because, like, they throw away, you know, you hear that thing about how, like, supermarkets, some of the things they can't sell, they, like, throw it away, because, like, obviously if they gave it away for free, they wouldn't be able to make a profit. So they probably throw away meat, which is why, like, you know, I don't think, I do kind of get it, and I feel like it does kind of depend on the person you are, and how, like, your own idea of morality works, where I feel like, yes, I can understand why somebody would feel like by buying meat they are participating in it. For me, I'm kind of like, well, it's happened and it's shit, but I do still like it. I mean, that's the thing, like, I don't have that much, but I definitely, I mean, I will admit, like, in some sense it's literally just that's true. I think the issue is, though, that obviously one person doing it doesn't make too much of a difference, which is annoying. And I do think what we basically need is a situation where, I think the most feasible situation would be a situation where people radically reduce the amount they have, and then that way it's easier to do it sustainably and better. Borch's position is that there is no ethical consumption of capitalism under capitalism, thus veganism is futile under the system. Could be a red herring though. Yeah, I don't know. It is a good question. I mean, the thing with me and like the whole vegan thing is it is one area, like weirdly enough. I mean, if somebody ever did want to kind of really attack my morality, their best bet would be to go down the veganism route, because to be honest, my attitude is just to say, yeah, someone says, that's the thing, yeah, see, I kind of agree, and you're going to love this, I kind of agree with Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has basically said that he thinks there is something very spiritual about hunting, that there is something about hunting where it's, and obviously I'm talking about hunting as opposed to animal husbandry, but I do kind of agree with that. I do think there is an element to which there is some sort of metaphysical and I guess spiritual value to participating in the circle of life, and part of that, would involve obviously hunting, but I think also animal husbandry, if it is kind of done from a place of respect, which I don't think is impossible, then I think that's pretty legitimate. I do think that it's something which, as I come to be more in control of my own finances, right now I'm kind of at like a weird intermediary point in terms of like moving out of my parents' house and not really having an exact job. I'm not as conscious with my financial decisions as I think I will be in the future. And that doesn't just include, like, I personally am quite a big fan of paying, a decent amount for decent quality items. My parents buy really shitty olive oil, and I'm like, when I'm in charge, no. I'm going to buy really good quality olive oil I can taste. What's that Tarantino thing? It's like, my parents buy olive oil, they buy shit. I buy the real gourmet expensive stuff, because when I put it on my salad, I want to taste it. You know what's on my mind right now? It ain't the olive oil in my pantry, it's the etc. etc. So anyway, basically, someone says Circle of Life sucks. Definitely, Circle of Life is rubbish. But yeah, I think that there needs to be I think spiritual is a good word to use, even though, and I think actually, see, I'm just throwing out loads of people who I don't particularly like, I'm not massive fans of, but I guess, I don't know, maybe my worldview's been a bit more mature, and I like to be a bit more nuanced in my thinking about these things, where I'm inclined to bring up Sam Harris and this whole thing where he talks about like an atheist spirituality. So I'd say, like, whether or not you believe in a spiritual dimension, the idea of a spirituality, or the idea of like believing in some kind of cosmic order that connects things, is very valuable, especially in terms of how you deal with the environment. That to say like that it matters that your role with regards to animals isn't just like treating them as products, but as living things, is really, I think, the big difference and the big determining factor in terms of ethical meat consumption. Like if, like I say, the food that you're eating is something which you have understood was a living thing, which there has been a sense of like, you're not understanding it's a product. And I think that is possibly a big issue with capitalism. The capitalism does turn things into products. Where does God live? God lives in the third heaven. That's actually a reference to an actual verse in the Bible. Basically, I'm probably going to stop reading the comments now because I actually kind of want to wind things up a bit, but I'll just say that, yeah, nature is as nature does. No, let's. I feel like I had a point I really wanted to close on. Capitalism has a habit of reducing people to products, and of kind of reducing people to like cogs in a machine, and I think it also reduces animals to products. That basically animals just become, how many animals can we have? Where can we store them? How much does it cost us to take care of them? And of course, how much can we sell them for? Whereas I think it's nice to imagine that there could be a point at which people can have animals and say, I respect these animals as animals, but I also can acknowledge that these animals are not as intelligent as us, that we live in a world where there is an order to how energy is distributed via the consumption of other animals and other living things, and as such, I'm willing to eat this animal, but not to then say, well, let's turn it into a product to be consumed. That you can have, and yeah, I think hunting is definitely a big part of that. Like, because obviously, if you're hunting, you have to kind of respect something if you're hunting it. And I do think that hunting, and there is the fact that obviously, I think people should be made aware that meat comes from death. I think that's the big thing. I think that's the big concern actually at the centre of it. That there are millions of people who buy meat and are not cognizant of the fact that meat comes from death. And they don't think about the fact that an animal died to give them that food. And I would say that it's not so much that because an animal died, you need to not eat that meat. But I would say it's a case of the fact an animal died means you need to think about the fact that an animal died so you can eat what you're eating. That a living thing did die for you to consume it. And that if you're not comfortable with that, then definitely you shouldn't be doing that. Then also I would imagine if people did have that in the back of their head, they would be more intelligent about what they ate. They wouldn't be like, I don't think people would be as gluttonous with regard to meat, and I think that's not very kind of savoury to just be like, oh, I'm going to eat loads of Big Macs. I think if, people, like I say, had an idea of like, well, actually a thing did die, so you could eat that, I think they'd have a bit more decorum about the whole thing. And of course, like I said, it's not even getting into the horrible treatment of animals in all sorts of situations. So yeah, I guess I'll give the comments a final cursory read. Do you have to respect someone if you're killing them? I think so. And I know it's weird, but I think ultimately, and I know that someone says, well, how can you respect something for killing it? But I think, animals are, they are kind of lower in the food chain. I do think, I am conscious of the fact, and I hate to bring this up now because I am just about to end the stream, I am conscious of the fact you could say, well, disrespecting animals and viewing them as like lower in kind of ranking, that we have the authority to eat them, leads to other ideas that we should eat all sorts of other things. So I don't know. It's an issue. It's genuinely something I do find interesting. It is something where ultimately I am kind of ashamed to admit that I am happy to sort of say, I think probably on balance I'm not as ethical as I could be on the issue, but that it's just not something where I prioritize the ethics of it over and above anything else. So yeah, there you go. I think I'm going to have to end the stream now, even though there's a really interesting conversation happening, just because I like to kind of keep it around 90 minutes, and it is around 90 minutes, so yeah. Bye! And like I say, I'll kind of download it and then re-upload it later in a slightly more edited